Good morning. So this is when I got to try and say a joke in Polish whilst we're loading the AV back up. Yeah. If I speak in Polish, that would be the joke, to be honest. So we'll stick with English. How are we doing? So whilst the slides are coming up, what I'm not going to do this morning is to talk about the Magento Commerce, now part of Adobe, and the products. What I'm going to do is spend some time talking about the customers, the merchants, the innovations that I'm lucky enough to experience as I interact with many of you and your peers across Europe. You know, we've got hundreds of customers, and I thought what I'd do is take you for a journey and explain to you and share with you what I'm seeing is happening in the world of e-commerce today. So I thought I'd first start with this slide here. So this possibly looks not the best graphic on a web presentation you'd expect to now see from an Adobe employee, and it's also possibly not the best CX you would see on a website. But this is a live website selling car leasing right now, today, in the United Kingdom. It's fact. Yeah? And what's interesting about this website, from our standpoint at Magento, it's completely disconnected from commerce. So they've built a website, and they've literally have click here, and then you have to completely rebuild what you're looking at acquiring. You know, it really is the days of commerce when the shopping cart was disconnected from the customer experience. And the reason I raise that, you know, Magento as an organization, when it was born, thanks to many of you in the community, what we were primarily doing was providing a shopping cart. And that shopping cart has got more and more complex, and also the way that we acquire products, the whole retail industry has completely changed. So I've put this slide up as well, because it's kind of my view of the shopping cart. And I explain it from two perspectives. When I first started using this graphic at Magento 2 years ago, I was talking about abandoned cart. You know, that real frustrating problem when someone goes all the way through your customer journey, goes to the cart, and then abandons it. Yes, that problem still exists. And there's lots of tools that we have today that can help improve the percentage of abandoned cart. You know, admittedly, Adobe's investing heavily in that space. But also, the way that we traditionally consider the shopping cart to be has completely changed too, in my opinion. And I'll talk about through that as we go through this presentation. The other thing that's changed, and I'm watching you from on stage, so I've got a slightly elevated view. So this is the world that we're also living. Yeah? What I call mobile phobia. And if any of you have got teenage children and you try to take the phone away from them, if you want to, this explains how painful this is. Yeah. But mobile has definitely changed the way that we procure. So if you look at maybe a decade ago and try to predict the impact these things have had on us as humans, can you tell me what it will be in 10 years' time? What's going to be the thing that's potentially going to change us all? Do we know? So here's another quote. And you see in this presentation, I quite like quotes. One of the biggest fears that we have is we should certainly learn from the past. We should recognize it, yeah, but we shouldn't be afraid of change. And the reason I say that, you know, I have the privilege to be getting involved in probably several hundred conversations where people are making decisions around a commerce platform every 3 months as a quarterly driven enterprise software company. And what I find fascinating about those conversations is what's driving the conversation. Well, we need to innovate because. We need to respond to Amazon. We need to have an omni-channel retail presence. And that's great, but the destination is today in many cases. And my conversation with you is really focused on, please think about what the destination should be in the future, rather than making decisions based on right now. And the reason that's important, I've seen so many people make decisions in retail, and they don't think about the future, and they inadvertently close a door. And the speed of change in retail, I don't need to tell you, is off the scale. People are changing their behaviors in ways that we hadn't thought about a decade ago. So think about it. When Brian had dark hair, retail was different to now that I have gray hair. It's changing that fast. So just to reaffirm this is a conversation I certainly have with my team internally at Adobe, but also more importantly with customers every day. Let's definitely learn from the past. In many cases, people already have a website. They've already got a customer experience. They've already got a customer journey that they're taking their prospects through. Let's learn from that. You know, if you think about it from a decade ago, 0.7% of the web traffic, only a decade ago, was mobile. 0.7. Now it's the majority. That's how much it's changed. You can see that just watching you on stage today. Do we know what it's going to be in a decade's time? I have a view on that. I'll share that with you. But please, when we are making decisions today, let's reflect on that. How many of you, and this is when you have to be a little bit interactive with me. Yeah, it's called British humor. Yeah, I'm still part of Europe. Let's not have that debate. But hands up if you've got a child under 13? A number of you. Well, guess what? You're educating your children highly likely for a role or a job that doesn't exist today. Think about that for a second. So when we're making decisions in the way that we're professionally engaged in our decisions, we should bear that in mind, because they're going to be the shoppers of the future. I can't talk about commerce without talking about physical commerce. And we see this, I certainly see these, and these are brands in the UK that have been absolutely impacted by the change in commerce. It's quite interesting because people say to me all the time, Brian, can you speak to me about e-commerce? It's normally my friends and family. And I was like, well, those days are gone, because it's commerce. There is no differentiation anymore between commerce and e-commerce. Look at these guys. Now, I find Amazon super interesting. I'm sorry, you know, how many of you have got the Amazon app on your mobile device that you're playing with right now? A number of you? How many of you use Amazon as the Google for shopping? Yeah, a number of you. So that's how strong we have to embrace Amazon. Now, what I'm seeing is a lot of merchants are leveraging that capability to promote their own brand. When it gets scary is when you let Amazon control your brand. And what's even more scary, and there's a few of them listed on the screen behind me, Amazon have brands that you may not be aware of are Amazon brands. Yeah? And if you think of Walmart wake up every day wanting to be Amazon. Yeah? Guess what Amazon do? They want to be Walmart. And the race between those two organizations is who gets there first. Yeah? It's a really interesting disruptor, so you can decide whether it's a friend or foe. I think if done properly, Amazon is a friend to every merchant in any location globally if you leverage their ability to expand your capability and your brand into a market. Yeah? If you subcontract your brand to them, then clearly that is more challenging for you. Which is why I chose this quote. It's not the strongest or the most intelligent that tends to win. Yeah? It's the one that is open to change, embraces change. So it may not be Amazon, yeah, that's now possibly the strongest. It may not be people that are most intelligent. You could argue Amazon was in that place a few years ago. It's how we can have agility. And that, frankly, is why one of the reasons I joined Magento. The combination of us as a commercial organization with all of our partners and the open source capability for innovation with speed is super exciting. And bluntly, you add that with the capability of we now have in the sweetie jar at Adobe, I think it puts us in a unique position. And frankly, that's why I'm pretty excited to be in the role I am in. But this is something that I also get asked to talk about. Brian, can you talk about business to consumer, or business to business, or business to consumer? And I'm going to come back to this point because these are all valid topics, but these are valid topics invented by global enterprise software companies, yep, I work for one, to articulate a message to you. And that's really important, but it's just one aspect of the customer journey, not the aspect, which I'm going to talk about. I like sharing stories. So these are two pictures, arguably of mediocre quality, from my hometown in the UK, in Newbury in Berkshire. And these are two coffee shops, both selling the same experience. Costa in Newbury, global brand, great brand, Magento customer. The Magento app is servicing them as an organization. This is where it's interesting. Costa have now got 4 stores in one town. It's a small retail town. And the reason they have this particular store, it's by the canal, and they wanted to create an experience for you to come and sit down and have a coffee, as opposed to what I tend to do in the morning. I rush into a store, grab a coffee, and rush out. Yeah, it's a different experience. They are being killed by Harrison's Coffee, a very intimate, very different experience. And the reason behind that, they know who they are selling to, and they are selling an experience. In my opinion, I'm a coffee snob, I'll admit that. I would think they're selling better coffee. Yeah? But actually, they're not. It's based on a coffee bean, it has milk in it, and in my case, I have sugar, because clearly I need sweetening. But the reality is, what Harrison's done really, really well is absolutely owned that physical customer experience. And therefore, they're booming as an industry and a business in my local town. So let's think about that from a digital experience. And we've had some real disruptors if you get this right. So I've chosen a quote from a guy called Brian. I don't know if you know this guy. So this Brian is possibly to be more successful than I am in creating a digital experience, despite I'm working for Adobe. This Brian is the founder of Airbnb. And what I find fascinating about this guy, he's created a digital experience that's so engaging that he's completely disrupted potentially the hotel business. Think about it, this guy doesn't own a hotel, doesn't have a concierge, doesn't have a restaurant, yeah? But he's probably, in terms of market capitalization and success, it's one of the largest hotel brands now globally through outstanding customer experience. He's created a digital experience around the consumer. And the reason I find this super important, it goes back to a quote from this guy. It's quite easy to communicate in a way that you understand, yeah? But what Harrison's Coffee has done to those citizens of Newbury and Berkshire is communicate in a way that gets inside you. The brand loyalty comes from that type of communication. It's easy to communicate. It's easy to listen. Yeah? But you've got to be heard. And that is more complex. And that's the challenge for us, whether we are physical merchants or digital merchants, as we bring those two worlds together, to own the customer journey in that intimate way. It's a challenge. So for me, as a business guy, yeah, and please be shocked. The next photos are quite shocking, so I forgot to. And so this is me, yeah. And yes, I know I work for the Photoshop company, and I really apologize for the pictures. Where's Iona? Where's my Polish sales leader? Stand up, Iona. So this is Iona. She's our sales leader in the local market. And I took one request from my owner this morning. I cropped this one, so I took my knees because I'm wearing shorts. So that's why she's feeling a bit grey this morning. That's completely down to me. But my point is, what we need to aim, whether we're doing business-to-business commerce or business-to-consumer commerce or business-to-business is remember you're human. Yeah? So if you hear Brian talk a lot or hear Adobe talk, we're going to start focus on business-to-human. Yeah? I'm a big believer in people buy from people, whether that's through a digital medium or a physical medium. Yeah. It's all about owning the experience. In my mind today, your brand, whether it's physical or electronic, The brand is the experience, yeah, as opposed to the thing. Think about it. Apple's market capitalization is not based upon the sum of a bunch of electronics they've put in a phone. Yeah? Their margin on their phones is enormous because they've created that whole experience around that brand. And some of the most successful brands on the planet have been very successful in doing that. And this is a much, much more challenging thing to do because we have to own the customer journey. Now, what's the great about customers today? They are so much more informed. You think about how much content is available for anything that we want to acquire. Our ability to understand what we're buying before we even look or to put our hand up and say, I'm interested, is significantly more available to us than ever before. Inside Adobe, we take this really seriously. You know, one of our key objectives of the company is to allow you to tell us and everybody around you your story, which is why we're very proud of our Photoshop and our PDF. You know, that creative is core to the DNA of Adobe. Yeah, we've all got a story to tell. We have to own that customer journey, and it never ends. So many customer journeys I get involved with and have commerce conversations stop at the point of checkout. That's a mistake. I'll explain why. So own the customer journey. What I find fascinating about commerce right now, there's huge attention on business to consumer. Let's sell to Brian. Well, guess what? Brian is running an enterprise software company in Europe. And when I want to procure something on behalf of my company, we'll often see this. Yeah? A lot of large enterprises have an internal corporate portal. Coincidentally, this is not mine. Yeah? But I find, isn't retail amazing? We've gone from businesses having that were, you know, when I started in business, I had people come and sell to me. That my intimate experience was better than my consumer experience. It's completely flipped on its head. My experience buying things personally as a human being is significantly better now than when I'm buying on behalf of my business, Adobe. This is the challenge for all of us and the opportunity for us to seize a business-to-business commerce, but remembering it's still Brian. I'm still the guy with the dodgy shorts that I had to crop in order that my salesperson could stomach my presentation. Yeah, still me. You can get it really, really right. So this is a digital website that's selling something that I never thought historically you could sell online, a mattress. But then I thought about it. And some of you have heard me say this before. Have you ever bought a mattress before physically? And you've gone to a showroom and you've laid next to your partner with a salesperson looking at you going, how's that feel? It feels horrible. Yeah? You know, does that feel comfortable? No, it doesn't feel comfortable. I'm laying on a bed in a big factory with you looking at me. That's not comfortable. Yeah? But if we do this content really well, we really can disrupt businesses. But my word, if you get it wrong, it can really upset businesses. So these are global brands in their local markets that you probably wouldn't want to take globally without adjusting the message. And we see this every day. So I just thought for humor, you know, KFC, a very large brand with its tagline, you know, they launched this globally. Yeah? Can you think of eat your fingers off is a really good tagline in China. It doesn't translate, and I'll let you think about what the taglines are on some of those other pictures. You really have to think, going back to what Nelson Mandela, you want to get inside me in terms of that procurement, but you have to be super conscious of the markets you're selling. The moment you go online, you are in a global market. So this guy, we all know this guy, he's without doubt leading an organization that is disrupting commerce, and he's absolutely right by this comment. If you make a mistake with my little coffee family in Newbury in Berkshire, physically, they're going to sell 6 friends. You make a mistake like KFC did in China, yeah, China knows. It's that disruptive. So the stakes are much higher as we look at commerce from a joined-up perspective. But like I said, going back, You can completely disrupt a market. Who thought that you could buy mattresses online? People thought the logistics behind that would mean that you couldn't. We're now globally and in Europe buying more mattresses online than we do physically by going to shops. So some of these brands have come from nowhere, disrupted the traditional brands, and people like Eve and Casper and people like those guys are now completely disrupted this market and offer an experience that most of us would find better than going and stood next to a salesperson while you lay in bed next to a partner in a cold factory. Yeah? Because they thought about that experience in a different way. How far can you take it? Some very engaging content. So here's a couple of examples. So this is a cooking magazine that you can read on your tablet online, where you can actually make that content shoppable. On the right-hand side, this is an AR kitchen. So you can walk around the kitchen and go, right, I like that sink. Oh, I really like that tap. Yeah? And just by doing that interaction, you're building your checkout. It's not a checkout in the, fill in your name, fill in your address, hit add to buy. It's not in that concept. It's engaging with you with highly engaged content that you can then make shoppable. We're also looking at how can we make customers more loyal? We're significantly less loyal to brands than we were unless that experience is ongoing. So there's a couple of examples here from the UK. One I quite like. Yeah, I've got a shaving brand that I subscribe to that has a far better understanding of Brian than I do. And what I mean by that, historically, I used to scrape my face in the morning, it'd be bleeding, I'll put a ridiculous shaped plaster on it and then have to go to the office and everyone laughs. That's avoided now because they've built a pattern, a relationship with me that's personal to just Brian, so they know when my shaving foam runs out, my blade runs out. My loyalty based on that personal experience is I subscribe to them and I never considered Gillette. Yeah? We can do that with makeup, we can do that more and more. Think about it for a second. We want to make procurement as fast and frictionless as possible. How many of you buy your shopping online? Yeah, I do. Yeah? Can you believe I do the family shop? Do you think I know how much bleach and toilet paper the Green family gets through in a week? Not a damn clue. But thankfully, these supermarkets do. And more importantly, if you tie your commerce engine together with your customer experience, it can prompt you. So we're working at Adobe with retailers to tie AI into the customer experience. So it's not just Magento providing that commerce engine, it's now looking at how we can do recommendations. And those recommendations can be based on stock, buying patterns, yeah. And the intent is how much more of my shopping experience that I do, for Lidl, for Tesco, for Carrefour, and those organizations to become subscription. And you may think this is crazy and only the very big vendors would be interested in that. Actually, subscription really, really works the smaller business you are, because it means that your loyalty goes down and the cost of customer acquisition goes down. Yeah? So I always get asked, Magento, acquired by Adobe, going to go up market? Yes. We've got organizations on Magento doing 37 billion in Europe online per annum. So clearly we've scaled. But where innovation happens and where this technology is winning is in the SMB market. So don't think that this content what I'm presenting is specific for the enterprise. No. It's winning for it. I'll give you a couple more examples. This pizza here. This is another pizza company, super clever. They've created an app, and they've used artificial intelligence around that app to deliver something custom for Brian. So I have the app, it's running on my iPhone in my pocket, and it knows I'm in Poland. Nothing. But if I'm coming out of Basingstoke railway station on the way home from a meeting at Adobe in London and it's 10 p.m., it's a good chance Laura, my wife, has not cooked for me or the dog has ate it. So based upon that AI, the app will wake up and ask me audibly, do I want to order my pizza? And if I say, yes, please, the pizza will be arriving at my house, the ETA of when I'm driving, because it knows where I am, it knows my journey, it knows what I like. Yeah? That's frictionless commerce. And guess how loyal I am to that pizza company in southern Berkshire? Pretty damn loyal. Yeah? That's by tying that customer experience together, buying loyalty. Let's talk about Internet of Things. So people think, this is coming. No, this is happening. And maybe this is the next big commerce thing. Commerce that we don't think about. Remember these? We all talked about having we all have push buttons around the house, running out of toothbrush, push the button. Running out of soap power, push a button. Has that worked? I'll let you decide. But what is working is these things. Yeah? Washing machines that tell you when you just load it out with powder and it tells you because a new powder arrives at your house. I've got a water softener in my house that I never need to order salt for. It does it itself. Okay, I'm a geek, but it's tied straight in. Yeah? Dishwashers, you know those damn tablets? You've got a dishwasher full of dirty? Dishwashers do it. My favorite, coffee machines that auto-order the pod. And you may think this seems a bit far-fetched, but let me look at another example. We've probably bought printers recently that seem quite economic. Go and buy a Brother NHP or a Kodak printer, and they're relatively inexpensive because the peripheral consumables are expensive. But the moment you buy one of those, they're going to ask you to subscribe to a service where the printer will order on your behalf. Yeah? It's here. So if you're delivering those services as a merchant, how are you engaging to seize that opportunity and integrate it into your package? Payment. Yeah? People are super impatient on payment. Can you remember when we had to fill in a form? My name, my address, my color of my eyes, where do you live, bank card details, yeah? Now it's, one click to buy, or, if you look at Apple Pay, you haven't even got to share your details, click. More and more this is coming with things like Apple ID, yeah? And there'll be other solutions, I'm certain, just to make commerce as frictionless as possible. I'm old enough to remember when I used to say, I went shopping. Yeah? Shopping used to be a destination. It's clearly not anymore. So think about other things. So here's another experiment that's coming. Yeah? So this is just a message that you may send. But why not send it to a retailer? Yeah? My wife's broke her Ray-Bans, and the AI behind the scenes determines what I want and pushes it straight into a shopping basket in Magento. Bang. Gone. Yeah? This is happening. Yeah? This is innovation. Same with conversation. We've all gone, hey Alexa, I want some shaving cream. Yeah? No, in my case, I don't want to do that, but conversational commerce will come. Is that going to be the next thing that disrupts mobile in the same way that mobile disrupted desktop 10 years ago? Well, all of this technology is also disrupting physical retail. So one of the things that we're doing at Adobe more and more is taking all of that digital technology that you're walking around with in your pocket, that's significantly more powerful in many cases than a point of sale inside the retailers that you're going into, and looking at how you consume that and apply it to a physical. So if you haven't seen it, there's a video from Amazon called Amazon Go that shows you some examples of this type of technology. But it's just showing how far you pick innovation. I mentioned at the beginning, you can't think of procurement stopping at the time of, once the shopping cart's full. So this is something that we've spent a lot of time with, is integrating shipping. How many of you make procurement decisions based upon when it's going to arrive? I do. Oh my God, it's my wife's birthday tomorrow. Have I ordered flowers? No, because I'm a man. Forgive that stereotypical, that's a reflection of me. But that's just the reality. So having that integrated is key. People are making decisions because it's all part of that customer journey. How far can you take it? Well, I can unlock my car from Poland, pop the boot, Amazon could deliver something inside it and close the boot and check that securely via a web camera. And you can tie all of that together, which is why Amazon brought Ring and why Google brought Nest. So how far can you take this? We're delivering it right now. Yeah? Does your e-commerce engine deliver that type of integration? Potentially. So having a little recap. E-commerce is now commerce. There's no differentiation. I mentioned a few moments ago, shopping is no longer a destination. I think catalog commerce will go. Catalog commerce is still big in B2B. We need to provide the same B2B experiences that we're already providing our consumers. It's much, much more than a shopping cart. If all we're doing is talking about shopping cart, then we have a concern. Commerce is everywhere. Clearly, you could be buying right now rather than listening to me. Maybe you are. Yeah? I'm a big believer in this. Your brand is your experience. The closer you can get, you can get and understand me as a human, not in a creepy way, but understanding relevance around to me, the more customer loyalty you're going to get, the more upsell and cross-sell, the less abandoned cart, and the more retained margin that you can take to your businesses. It's really, really important that we understand that. Think about how fast and how frictionless can we make that buying experience, and then don't forget the experience does not stop when they click buy. Yeah, it's continuous. So going back to that B2B, I think B2B is a real challenge because I don't think we've done the tip of the iceberg. Business-to-business commerce, in the majority of countries I'm talking to in Europe, we solve the personalization of B2B in this way. We throw people at it, yeah? As opposed to leverage the tools that we're all consuming as consumers. And the reason I'm big on this, I'm a human. So when I'm in my shorts running around Florida, yeah, don't think about that, yeah? Or in a business suit that I probably should have photoshopped, yeah? I'm the same guy, whether I'm buying on behalf of myself or buying an Adobe, yeah? But at the moment, when I'm buying on behalf of myself, my experience is significantly better than it is when I'm buying on behalf of Adobe. Someone come and make that experience as good as me, and you're likely to get my procurement decisions on behalf of a multi-billion-dollar spend company. Yeah, so huge opportunity for us to challenge. It's still about the experience. So clearly, I also run sales at Adobe, so I just want to talk about this for a second. So we brought these two companies together over a year ago now, and this is the way I see what's super exciting for me as the guy that ran Magento, now is looking at something a bit bigger. Adobe has this amazing creative, whether it's based on Photoshop or PDF, we have amazing tools to allow us to create content. We then take that creative and articulate it and produce tools so we can make that very personalized content and project it to you in a digital way, whether it's signage, whether it's online, whether it's on mobile. We can use AI to leverage that to give you really strong recommendations. We can look at your abandoned cart and then use our Marketo technologies to push that, very relevant follow-up to you. We can tie all of that content together. And what Magento's been doing is make it shoppable. But the other thing is also true the other way around. If you've been thinking about Magento, about making your website shoppable, that's one part of the story. We should think about what we can also do with the Adobe capability to improve that experience, because the two things are now hand in hand. It's not the shopping cart. So forgive this very blatant sales plug, and this is why I think Adobe and Magento coming together is really important. So this is a summary of magic quadrants from Gartner that support the messaging that I've just been delivering around how experience tying these two things together. And as you can see, whether it's digital experience platforms, content management, AI, web analytics, omni-channel experiences, or commerce, Magento and now Adobe coming together leads in the magic quadrants of almost or second to none. That's why I was super excited by the acquisition of Adobe into Magento. Yeah? They're coming together because we're solving problems, whether that you're a $37 billion organization that's historically Magento or 200,000 euros here in Poland. Yeah, the technology is super relevant irrespective of your side. I'm going to leave you on this last slide, on this last thought. What does 2029 look like from a commerce standpoint? It's down to us. Yeah? The way we can predict the future is to invent it. And what I'm always excited when I join Ben in these events, the innovation, the agility we have with you is second to none. Yeah? So let's go and disrupt commerce together by owning the customer experience and making that customer experience shoppable, please. Thank you.